Okay, this is the January 19th, 2022 Land Acquisition Commission meeting taking place both virtually and in person. And to begin, we will call the meeting to order, 6:05. And then appointment of alternates is necessary. We do not need to. We have, I believe, 6 voting members present. So we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. We can all stand. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Great, thank you. Before we get into actually the meet, and this meeting will move pretty quickly, just say, hey, thank you for everyone for being here. Happy New Year. And I will let you know that the final item on the agenda is the election of 2022 officers for the Land Acquisition Commission. And as of this moment, no one has stepped forward to say that they would like to chair this commission for the upcoming year. Cassandra has volunteered to perhaps be the secretary. So within the next 20 minutes, half hour, whatever this meeting takes, if anyone has an interest, please feel free to step up. And I'll speak to that a little bit in my remarks. So without further ado, approval of minutes. We are looking to approve the minutes from October 20th, 2021. Does anyone have a motion?
Or any edits?
Yeah, does anyone have any comments first, I guess? Is there a motion to approve? Cassandra, motion to approve to a second?
Second.
Good.
Second by Tara. Great. Is there any discussion? It was a fun meeting.
I was just looking back on my notes.
Go ahead.
And one of the things we discussed was having this idea of a certain amount of acreage for every 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in here?
I don't know if it's in there or not. I will. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I didn't use the exact verbiage of that you're referring to in terms of the 70 acres per 1,000?
Correct.
Okay, I was just bringing it up because I feel like that's something we could develop and focus on, use it as a goal or whatever, if it's not already.
It's actually on our page on the town hall website. I think it speaks directly to that charge. Okay. Yeah. And if anyone doesn't know what Cassandra's referring to, when the commission was developed in 1998, 1999, the charge really was for the town to acquire 70 acres of open space for every 1,000 residents. And
Mr. Bishop knows how we stand with that?
I don't know. Tim, are you aware of that?
I recall the number from their discussion, but I haven't calculated anything. But I could do that. It shouldn't be that hard.
And not to get too off topic, but I can speak to that a little bit as well in my remarks. I did an inventory in 2018, actually. Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just address what Cassandra said. This is Adam. At the end of section 6, Tim's section, I did talk about how you and Linda both suggested that we develop a plan to illustrate the importance of the Land Acquisition Commission and how it could be integrated into the town charter. But I didn't actually use I didn't get too specific with the 70 acres per 1,000 people, but I'd be happy to add that into the final version if you guys want.
No, I see it now. That's great.
Any other comments?
I didn't hear a response. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just said I found what you're talking about, and that's great. So I don't see a need to amend it. It's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No need to amend. Without any further comments, all those in favor of accepting the minutes from October 20th, say aye.
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 Okay. Those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. Good. Motion's approved. Minutes approved. Okay. Chairman's report. Okay. So I guess I'll jump into that, and that's a good place to jump off to. We, again, trying to encourage maybe someone to step up to lead this commission. I did in my first meeting in 2013. I was voted as chair of this commission, and it's been a wonderful ride over the past 8 years since 2013. But completely looking forward, I will look back just briefly just to say it's been an interesting 8 years now. We've had 3 conservation directors. Tom Steinke was the longtime conservation director when I started. Brian Carey was obviously here for his term. And now we land with Tim Bishop, and Tim Bishop will be a recurring theme because he is definitely our beacon of hope as we move forward. And Tim, I wish you were here in person to speak to that. But all roads in 2022 lead to Tim Bishop. Beyond the 3 conservation directors, we also had something that you may be aware of, but we had a fill pile scandal within the town, which obviously derailed a lot of initiatives, especially within conservation. And then certainly we have been living within a pandemic for the past, 22 years? Past 2 years.
Seems like it.
It seems like, for sure. So 8 years has gone by pretty quickly. What I really believe, though, that there is a very good, I'm really hopeful with what this commission can do and really what the town can do in acquiring additional open space moving forward. And I wrote down just some notes. I mean, so the open space inventory in 2018, you should all be familiar with perhaps the town of Fairfield GIS mapping. If you aren't, I encourage you to go to the website and find it. It's a great tool. And really just looking at property throughout the town, you can click on all the different lots. You can see ownership, you can see price, valuations, et cetera. And it's a tool that can be used by us to really identify potential opportunities. But what I found in 2018, November of 2018, was that the town of Fairfield had about 1,400 acres of open space in 272 properties. The town of Fairfield golf courses totaled about 640 acres. The town of Fairfield beaches was another 66 acres. The town of Fairfield school ball fields was another 372 acres. That's about 2,482 acres of town-owned kind of open space. Again, the definition of open space is up to somewhat of a debate. Is a school open space? Is, Osborne Hill Elementary School all open space? Well, certainly there's a building on the property, but there are ball fields in back of it. In addition to that 2,488 acres of quote-unquote open space, I also found that Aspetuck and Audubon combined, the Aspetuck Land Trust and the Audubon combined had about 354 acres of open space from 42 different properties. Aquarian and Bridgeport Hydraulic had over 400 acres, 402 acres with 13 properties. The state of Connecticut had 181 acres. Private associations within the town had 221 acres. Private golf courses, think Brooklawn, think Country Club of Fairfield, 460 acres. And then there was a miscellaneous 100 acres from 6 different properties. Probably includes Oaklawn Cemetery. If you've ever been there, that's a beautiful piece of property, an arboretum. You add all that up, and it's about 4,200 acres, which to me was a number that rang true when I did it back in 2018, because the 70 acres per 1,000 residents times about 60,000 residents is about 4,200 acres. So again, it's a little bit of fuzzy math in that, a private golf course is that open space, is a cemetery open space, are schools open space? I'm not so sure. It's up for someone else to determine, but the open space is there. That's one thing. So beyond that, just some key strategies moving forward with acquiring open space that I'd recommend for this commission. Increasing awareness however possible. I just handed Cassandra and Trey a pamphlet that we put together, and I'll leave a couple of copies with them as well. We used to go do events, Earth Day events, and we try to raise our awareness as to Land Acquisition Commission for the town of Fairfield, making sure residents know that they can protect their land, they can preserve their land, they can even cede it to the town of Fairfield. but increasing awareness, maybe there's editorials, whatever it might be, but making sure that residents know that there is an opportunity for them to preserve their land. I think RTM is a key initiative that I haven't been successful with it, but certainly trying to develop momentum within the RTM to initiate funding on an annual basis for the town of Fairfield. Other towns do it. Something that Tim Bishop has already been doing already is identifying properties that are perhaps back on taxes or have tax liens against them. And this would be undeveloped properties primarily, but the ones on Beaver Street that we'll speak about in a little bit fall into that category, that there's really abandoned land that's undeveloped, maybe already adjacent to town-owned land. We should be looking at to perhaps see what the opportunity is there. State grants, another area that Tim seems to be well-versed on. The town of Fairfield, I think, just hired someone to help write some of these grant applications. But state grants are certainly important for us in funding open space acquisition. Conveyance is something else that I sent Tim about 5 years ago. And conveyance refers to really the state of Connecticut owns 180 acres in the town of Fairfield. Some of it may be surplus, and they may look to convey that land to the town of Fairfield. I'd rather have it in the town of Fairfield's hands than have it in the state's hands. And there are things called conveyance bills that would give the property to us. We should pursue that. On the other end of the spectrum, identifying orphan lots. And by that I mean lots or properties that the town owns that are not adjacent to any existing open space, that are orphaned. They're by themselves. We've done this over the past 8 years where we've sold a couple of pieces of land. And why not? If the town owns it, it's an adjacent property owner wants to buy it, maybe those funds can be used towards other open space acquisition. Subdivisions are certainly an area where we do acquire open space right now. And subdivisions, it's written into our planning and zoning codes, but it's, I think it's subdivisions of 5 acres or 4 or more lots. There's a requirement of a set-aside of a certain amount of property and or a fee in lieu of a set-aside of property. And so we benefit 2 ways. We either acquire some land or maybe we acquire some funds that can help us acquire land. And really maybe just not lastly, but really target properties. This is not last. I have actually one more. Target properties. We want to be keeping our eyes wide open. I don't know if anyone saw, but there's a new application in front of planning and zoning right now for an 830G development north of the High Ho on Black Rock Turnpike, 4480 Black Rock Turnpike. It's a 4.7 acre piece of property that they're looking to build a bunch of condos on, as I understand it. We want to try to be ahead of that. And so there are other properties on Black Rock Turnpike that I think need to be identified. It's certainly that the developers are certainly keeping a very close eye on it. The Pansy Road Farm, 220 Pansy Road, is something we've talked about before. The DuPont property up on Halls Highway is a significant piece of open space right now. 150 Villa Avenue. The Post Road properties in Southport, where the old Bulkley Pond used to be. I know that Tim's working on that as well. Something even like the Grange up in Greenfield Hill. What's the future of that? And lastly, the old Ross Farm on Mill Plain Road, at the corner of Mill Plain and Stilson, is something that I've been looking at. But I think we should, as a commission, identify target properties. Last thing from me is just moving forward is really just making the most of the key partnerships in town and locally. Aspetuck Land Trust is a key one. Adam Goodman, who's on our commission, is very involved with Aspetuck. The Audubon is certainly a key partner. Sasquatch in Southport, Aquarian, with over 400 acres in town. They're good stewards of their land and their watershed. We should be connected with them and be first in line if ever they are looking to sell any of their property. Organizations like Fair Plan or the Mill River Wetlands Committee, which I'm on the board of, Fairfield Bridle Trails, Greenfield Hill Village Improvement, the Forestry Committee, that I think Mary Hogue chairs. And lastly, within the town, Brenda Jim Wendt, and certainly Tim Bishop are key partners for this commission moving forward. So all that said, I think there's a lot to look forward to with the Land Acquisition Commission and what this commission can do in the coming year and the coming years, and would encourage any of you to kind of maybe step forward and perhaps, be the chair. Any questions, any thoughts, comments? Okay. With that said, Tim, do you want to just maybe update us on anything that you have or give us some thoughts on your end?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Well said, and I could say to follow that up in my 6 months in this seat, it's been a pleasure working with you and the other committee members. I know we talk often, so that's it's been a good relationship, and I appreciate the info and stuff you've sent my way to look at, and I think we've worked well together with the same goal in mind. Overall, this committee, is a big interest to me. It's not one of my 3 main commissions, formal commissions that I'm involved with, but it should be. It's one of the 4, I think of my job really related to wetlands, open space, and shellfish on a daily basis. This being a big part of it, so it's good to be involved with you guys on a quarterly basis, if not more often outside of these meetings. To that extent, I look forward to working with the rest of the committee members and the new chair, whoever that may be, with everything you just spoke about. Summed everything up very nicely in a nutshell. The latest development updates I have that you alluded to, and I think everyone's familiar with already, is I spoke last week with Mr. Collis, who is the owner of the 4.2 acre parcel at 3726 Post Road, the larger of the 2 default parcels as part of the old Bulkley Pond, immediately adjacent to our Hulls Highway open space to the south. He is still, I wouldn't say opposed to a donation, but he requested give him a little time to do his homework on the real estate and ramification and legal counsel side of the transaction. Like I said, he is in arrears by, I want to say, I don't have the number in front of me, but I want to say about $42,000 in back taxes, 15 years plus. I think I explained before we had gone back and forth with the tax collector, him and I, all in an email thread, he seems open to discussion, I guess is the best way to put it. So that parcel is probably number 1 on my.
Yeah, and I'll just interrupt for anyone who's not aware, because it's not on our agenda, but 3724, 3726 Post Road are 2 parcels that used to be underwater, basically, with the Bulkley Pond that the dam burst, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now? And these properties are now 18. And these properties are meadows, basically. It's over by Shake Shack, if you're looking for kind of a landmark. The pond that used to be Shake Shack. And those parcels end up being adjacent to our town-owned open space. What open space is that, Tim? Do you know?
Yeah, that's the Hulls Highway open space.
Yeah, right. So those check all the boxes, and that's 3726. What about 3724, which is the property right next door?
3724 is immediately adjacent to 3726 to the south, and that is a 0.8 acres parcel, just under 1 full acre. Right. Same thing, former waterfront, but it's also landlocked because there are 2 smaller parcels near that tiny parking area near the dam. But we would still have access to those, or one or both, from our existing open space on Hulse Highway. So, it has a lot of potential. I prefer to get the larger one. Obviously, that's immediately adjacent to our space. But if update on the 3724, I used a people finder service that I paid for, tracked down who I thought was the most recent owner. I sent her a letter, came back. I tried another person who actually lived in Westport with the same first and last name. She actually called me. I spoke to her. She said, "I'm not the person you're looking for." I said, "That's really a coincidence, but thank you for letting me know." So I am now at a dead end with the smaller of the two parcels for now.
Yeah, I bet you didn't realize the conservation director responsibility came with private eye duties.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the job, but now it's become a personal challenge to locate that. I originally had mailed a letter to who I thought was an owner in Vegas. That came back, and then, like I said, I tracked down two other leads. Both were dead ends. So, similarly, both parcels are 15 years plus in default, but tracking down ownership on the smaller one is slightly more challenging at the moment.
Cool. Do you want to jump in? Go ahead.
Yeah, as you alluded to, you and I met out there at Pansy Farm. If you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, and that's not on our agenda either, but Pansy Road, 220 Pansy Road, if you know, it's over near Osborne Hill School. There is an iconic red barn. It's an old farm, and it's actually an active farm right now. I think it's about 12 acres in total, mostly wetlands that back up to the Old Navy on Black Rock Turnpike. And Mr. Pandagoody, who's the owner, is looking to have it be preserved as a farm, but would like the town of Fairfield to step in and perhaps be the buyer. And that's kind of where it stands right now. Obviously, funds are somewhat limited, but yeah, I don't do you?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I have from our chambers that there is a huge need for community gardens. So that kind of pops in my head. It would align with if he wants to maintain it as a farm.
Yeah. Well, there was when he first put the property on the market in the fall of 2019, I think, there was an online petition that gathered hundreds of signatures from local residents. Again, it's a matter of basically perhaps the town and/or this commission, perhaps coming up with a plan to find the funding for it.
Right. I was thinking if we use it under that community garden thing, we could try to write a grant, or maybe the Sustainable Task Force or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually and the grant would be the ultimate. Are you guys there? Is anyone still there?
Yes, Adam's here.
On the phone? Yes, I'm on.
Rob's here.
Thought I was on mute for a second.
No, I just have it on mute so that you don't hear all the noise in my background.
Perfect. Thank you. Just on Pansy Road, I agree. Actually, a grant would be the way to do it. And Tim, you and I had a conversation that perhaps with an educational twist, with it being within walking distance to Osborne Hill School, that might gather some traction with grant funds. And again, it's a piece of property that in kind of the wake of the High Street situation, everyone knows the High Street property that was sold in 830G, you would hate to see the same thing happen here on Pansy Road within walking distance to the school. So I think the owner is willing to discuss it. It's a matter of coming to terms with a price and a plan too. I think that was also, and I met with Brenda at one point to discuss it. The concern was what does the town do with it, and who manages it. And perhaps it's, maybe it's even that a partnership with an Aspetuck Land Trust to help us manage the property. Back to you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, well said. And I think that would be the way to go. Depending on the price, I think obviously is a big tipping point. Partnership and grant aside, if where anyone would come up with $800,000 or $900,000 to purchase it would be the difficult part. But I think the discussion continues and look for possibilities and partnerships to move it forward. But community garden, I don't see the town operating cows and chickens, on its own, but community garden, something like that, to maintain the viewscape and wetland protection and flood storage area, has preventing development and whatnot. It has so many pluses that there's got to be a way to figure out how to actually acquire it and protect it. So,
agreed.
To be continued.
Great.
I think without getting into Section 8, I think that was all I had.
Okay.
Constantly, like you said, looking for parcel acquisition opportunities. With as we spoke earlier about, I guess the other one I can mention is the Riverview Circle. Same kind of story. Parcel in default, small piece adjacent, incorporates a water course and adjacent to two corners of existing open space. I think it was under an acre. But again, should be an easy grab if we could work through that.
Yeah.
So handful of parcels we're looking at for the low-hanging fruit, and we'll keep moving forward.
The background on 224 Riverview Circle is that the commission actually reviewed this in 2014. I think it's a half-acre piece of property that's adjacent to the Mill River and town-owned open space. And there was actually motions to go and acquire it, and then I think there was some sort of delay with the neighbors, and it got derailed. But I made Tim aware of it, and then it might be something that the town can pick back up, because it is a piece of property that, again, is back in taxes, maybe for the price of the back taxes, the property can be put on the town's open space list. Do you want to jump into just updates on some of the old business?
Sure. Yeah, I could do that if you want to skip over. Two other things I have updates that I just thought of. 760 Oldfield Road, if you guys were involved with that acquisition, I believe it was 2019. That is a piece of marsh space addition to existing open tidal wetland on Oldfield Road, just past there's a small bridge crossing as you're heading towards South Pine Creek. I spoke with Allison at Connecticut Deep. I want to say the end of December 28th comes to mind. Huntington Company had submitted their final survey documenting encroachments. Bottom line is the maps are in the state's hands to get our reimbursement check from the Open Space Acquisition Fund. And then formally we'll be working with the Tucker Fund to, put up a bird observation blind on that space next to the tidal marsh. So that's another open space tidbit that's moving forward as well.
Cool. Sounds good.
I saw that was trimmed up nicely.
Yeah, it was. The Phragmites is intense in there. Okay, yeah, I could speak to Section 8 if you want.
Sure. Does anyone have any questions on the properties that Tim just reviewed? Sure. Yeah, if you want to jump into Beaver Street, that'd be great.
Sure. Two parcels. I don't know how much is. I'm repeating myself, but two parcels, 152 and 159 Beaver Street. Both small parcels, but would be a nice addition. Both are on the northern border of our existing Gypsy Springs open space, which is a dead end from Beaver Street and Gray Street, sandwiched in the middle. Both I've spoken with both tracked to those survivors and owners down and heirs, I guess you could call it, of both properties. Both are willing to donate, very willing to donate and just unload them. They're the children of the original owners. And again, a similar story, 15 years plus delinquent in taxes. One of the heirs didn't even know it still existed in their family. So we see a theme here with delinquency and just lack of knowledge after the years of, who owns it, or my dad used to own it and he died 20 years ago and I didn't know it landed in my lap kind of thing. So worked with the tax collector on that one, spoke to both people. As we stand as of a few weeks ago, Town Attorney Baldwin is working with to reach out to them and begin the donation process and discussions, and hopefully, we could just agree to assume the title and, absolve the taxes and add another, quarter acre or so to the existing 2-acre Gypsy Springs open space. Similar on the south side, like I said, 145 Gray Street. This ball was in motion years ago. I picked it up recently. It was 2 lots owned by the same owner. 135 built a duplex. Somewhere in the negotiation, he donated, maybe related to a subdivision or lot line change or something, donated the 145 Gray Street, which is adjacent to Gypsy Springs open space on the south side. It's just a very wet parcel with tussock sedge and, standing water that we could add to Gypsy Springs there. So that we already, same thing. It's just a paperwork processing issue. So if all 3 are acquired at, maybe by year end, we'll have added another almost 2/3 acre to Gypsy Springs open space. Lastly, 155 Villa Avenue. We had a meeting maybe December with engineering and some of the other departments, and Aspatec Land Trust was there. Discussion for flood storage area and doing some drainage pipe manipulation in here to accommodate more water. The land trust would likely be in charge of maintenance, do some invasive species removal, possibly some small natural log and wood type playscapes in the one dry end. But at the same time, the current owner is looking to do some borings and soil testing for 3 single-family homes on the eastern or southern side, closer to the intersection. I don't have my bearings. So there's a couple things going on. They did pull a permit from us for borings, which should be active any day, I believe. But big picture, it's, very wet parcel, and main goal of flood storage. There wouldn't be really, I haven't walked it yet, but from what I understand, there's no real value as far as recreation other than a playscape type thing in the one dry corner. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the availability would be for any type of trail. but the main goal, like I said, would be flood storage and mitigation.
Yeah.
And that's it. I haven't heard anything since. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the negotiation is between economic development and ownership and on the legal end. So I haven't heard anything since on that one. But,
hey, Tim, Trey had a question regarding flood mitigation.
Yeah,
sure.
How much would it provide a lot of relief along any flooding? Because I know people, like even in Bridgeport, I know we're not, we're Fairfield, but I know that Rooster River causes trouble for certain properties and stuff. And I'm just curious, would it help a good amount, or is it just minimal?
I think it would help a good amount. Some of the plans that I saw, engineering was going to do some calculations, which I haven't seen the result of, but their initial intent was to, there's two, decent sized stormwater drain pipes in that parcel, and they're in, one I believe is covered, and the other one is partially daylights. Their intent was to cut both of those and reduce their length. And that would allow, water to disperse in a different section of the property and kind of spill out and pan out and flood that area instead of being piped across or under Villa Ave, which I believe is the current configuration, and continue on to flooding. So if they could flood that, majority of that entire parcel, it's quite a bit of water.
Any other questions for Tim on Villa and/or Grace and/or Beaver Street?
I have a question on Grace. This is Adam. Did we get the environmental back?
Yes, did a phase one, and there was no recommendations for phase two, or no environmental concern, recognized environmental conditions or areas of concern. I personally looked back on aerials back to 1934. It was still grassy, which might have even been, goat or horse grazing, but no industry or potential environmental concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple notes on my end. The Beaver Street properties, great work there. I think at the October meeting we basically gave a consensus that we were in favor of it, but I don't think we ever had a formal motion. I would recommend that maybe at the April meeting, Tim, as this moves forward, or if it moves forward before that LAC could do a formal motion to support the acquisition of these properties in lieu of the back taxes, basically.
Okay.
That would be for Beaver Street. Grace Street, we already approved. We voted on that years ago. Villa Avenue, we also voted on to endorse the town moving forward to acquire it. I just, on that property specifically, with the involvement of Aspetuck Land Trust, that is really a partnership with Aspetuck Land Trust and the town, both participating financially and obviously afterwards in the maintenance of the property. It could be a very good template for this commission and for the town moving forward to have Aspetuck kind of a private partner, a private-public partnership. And Aspetuck certainly is in the land acquisition business or land preservation business, and they do a really good job. So that's really, I'm excited to see that one come to fruition. Now, the owner doing borings on the property, as I understand it, he perhaps is just looking to get confirmation that the property could be subdivided for tax benefit purposes. Do you know anything about that, Tim?
Yeah, that's what I believe, and that's kind of what I've heard as well. And I don't see any other motives. There's 3 houses that were kind of roughed out, sketched in, and they were do some test pits and for septic and geotechnical borings for structural foundations. So they had to deal with conservation department for working in a wetland. So yeah, that's I haven't heard anything since.
Okay. Awesome. Any other questions for Tim on these properties or any properties in general? Cool. Tim, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
So that brings us to item number 9, which is the LAC 2022 officer elections, identifying a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary for the upcoming year. Do we have any nominations? Would anyone be willing to step forward and be chair this year? Am I on mute? Okay. I am not surprised. This has been out there for a week and I haven't had really any volunteers. What I can do is maybe just look to obviously have this moved and tabled until the April meeting, and then certainly work with the first selectman's office and with Tim to maybe identify a current member who might want to just lead the commission over the next 3 meetings into 2022. Does anyone have any comments on that or any other suggestions on that? Okay. Very good. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Cassandra, motion to adjourn. Second.
Wait a second. Are you doing just the chair, or are you looking at the other elections?
Well, I mean, does someone want to be vice chair? I mean, Cassandra did volunteer maybe to perhaps be the title secretary. And I know your term is up as secretary, so all 3 positions would be open going into April. I typically, the way we've handled over the past number of years is that there's a slate of officers and it's voted on all at once. Makes it easier, but I'm certainly willing to entertain individual officers if anyone wants to look at that specifically.
Gotcha. I understand this. I understand what you're saying about the slate. I'm fine with whatever.
Yeah. Your term is officially up after these minutes, and then I'll work with the town on the slate of officers for the April meeting. I think it's April. In fact, let me just confirm with you guys the 2022 meeting dates. Does anyone have it in front of them? Here they are.
I do.
April 13th, July 20th, and October 19th are the next 3 meetings for this commission. It meets on a quarterly basis, and that's something else that could be up for discussion. Whether you want to meet more. We used to meet on a monthly basis, but certainly that's again up to the commission to determine how often you need to meet. Special meetings can be held obviously when needed. Any other thoughts on tabling the officer elections until April?
I mean, I'm in favor of that, especially with like COVID and all that. Like, let's just come back to April.
Cassandra's in favor of it. I don't think we necessarily need to vote on it, but there's the support there to kind of at least table it until April, and I can act as a special consultant, non-member, in maybe trying to facilitate the commission. Does that sound good? Any other thoughts on that?
That sounds good to me.
That sounds good to me here.
Good? Yeah. Okay. Good. Rob Wilkins?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Push this to April. Just seems to make sense.
Unless you want to step up today and be chair.
I'm too new as of tonight.
I was at my first meeting. Listen, no peer pressure. We'll give you some time to think. I think we have a motion. Trey seconded. All in favor? Aye. Just my thanks to everyone serving on this commission. It's been a pleasure, and I'm certainly available via email and phone if anyone has any questions or needs anything. Other than that, have a great Wednesday evening, and we'll talk soon. Thanks all.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who made the motion to adjourn?
Cassandra.
Okay, great. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Bye. See you, Adam.
Bye.